There is a lot of talk about racial profiling now. The president mentioned racial profiling during the incident with Professor Henry Louis Gates and Officer or Sergeant Crowley. And since that time, it's gone up as far as complaints from black citizens about racial profiling. I have with me Gloria Brown Marshall. She is an associate professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. She's also the founder and director of the Law and Policy Group. And we're going to talk to her. She's has written about these issues. She's discussed them over the years and a lot of experience in dealing with race and gender issues. Gloria, welcome to the show. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
So you actually believe that, or you believe that there is an attempt in this country today by law enforcers to intentionally prohibit and degrade black Americans?
I think there is a small minority within law enforcement, within the criminal justice system from beginning to end, who believe that people of African descent are inherently criminal, and therefore we deserve the harsh punishments and harsher than normal punishments that are being received. I mean, if you look at the fact that the United States has over 2.1 million people incarcerated in its jails and prisons. Think of the number of countries that don't have 2 million people in it. And we have over 2 million people incarcerated.
What should we do with these people if they're committing crimes?
But here's the thing. The social scientists have already found white people commit more crimes. They use more drugs on average than black people. But there are racial points in every aspect of the criminal justice system. From the very beginning of it, who's pulled over? For example, New York Times had an article that showed last year over 400,000 people were pulled over for stop and frisk. And we know stop and frisk is when law enforcement pulls somebody over, pats them down, such, and then says, okay, you can go. 400,000 people were pulled over, no charges, pulled over, stopped, frisked, and let go. 80% of those people were black.
Well, it's a known fact that, yes, white people commit more crime because there are more white people.
No, white people commit more crimes despite their number in the population.
But black people commit more violent crime than whites do, and that's a known fact as well. What should we do with the blacks who are committing the violent crime?
Well, here's where we're skipping parts here, because we have to compare apples to apples. If we look at it from the standpoint, white people commit violent crimes. White people commit violent crimes and black people commit violent crimes. When you watch television, you see white people committing violent crimes all the time. I always find it interesting when we talk about the fact that black people commit more violent crimes. The actual way to look at this is black people commit more violent crimes against other black people.
And against whites, too.
But white people commit more violent crimes against other white people. It becomes race-specific.
No, but black people commit more violent crimes against whites than whites toward blacks. And and black people committed to one another, toward one another.
I really have to look at those numbers because I've seen different numbers. Because I've seen what happens is that what we base a lot of this on is what makes the news. We know that black people commit a number of violent crimes against each other, as do whites. Here's the concern that I have. One is that the majority of people in prison today are not there for violent crimes. They're there for drug crimes. And basically, even though we might not agree on it, drug crimes are considered nonviolent crimes. So you would say 80% almost of the people who are incarcerated, of the 2.1 million I spoke about earlier, those people are there for drug crimes. So when you look at it from that standpoint, you see this flood of drugs into the black community. Black people don't have the means of international drug trade, even though you had that Denzel Washington movie that showed us back during the time of the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
That was an anomaly. And so many of these things that we base it on are anomalies. We base on things on what makes television news. So if we look at even looking at the criminal justice system from the standpoint of who gets picked up, going back to the racial profiling, The idea is if you pick up enough black people, you're going to find something on them. And so that's true. But that would work for any group of people. If you picked up enough white people, you will find things on them.
But, you know, for black Americans are, 12 to 13% of the population.
Yes.
And of that population, a high percentage of them, especially young blacks, are committing crimes, violent crimes and nonviolent crimes. And all the stats show that. And if you know that to be true, why do they call it racial profiling when these folks are stopped by police officers if a number of blacks are known to be doing this? It's not like the officers are making it up.
Well, there are like 5 different issues in there. One, young white people are also committing crimes, but when young white people commit crimes, the people in juvenile court think of them as people with a future. So why ruin their future by putting them into, detention or expelling them from school? These young white people are seen as an investment in this country.
And who are they seeing? Who see them in that way?
The court system, the officers. I mean, I've interacted with enough officers. When a person looks at another, an adult person looks at a younger person, if you see something in that younger person, you give them a second chance. So you also have an economics issue here, in which you have more white people who have more money, who are able to put their children in drug rehab, or put them in special schools, or transfer them to a private school, do these other types of things that would allow them to have a second chance. Where in many instances in the black community, the only alternative to bad behavior is detention and expulsion.
Well, that is because most of these black children are born out of wedlock, and their fathers and mothers, by their fathers and mothers not being together, you got to put them somewhere because the parents can't afford to do anything else. They have had their children in the wrong way. So you got to do something with them.
But in the end, God puts people on the planet. That's my theory.
Who?
Depending on how you want to say it.
You said God?
If you want to say it's in the wrong way, I don't support that it's in the wrong way.
You don't think out of wedlock birth is in the wrong way of having children?
Well,
or to have children?
God. If you look at the Bible, it doesn't say it's in the wrong way.
It does.
Where is this?
I'll tell you in a minute. I'm glad you asked. Hold on, Gloria. Let me take a quick break. Gloria Brown Marshall is my guest. She is an attorney and expert on race, gender, and justice issues. Back in a moment, folks, for your calls.